Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We've got a very interesting show, and some of the figures and the information that we'll be receiving is basically hot off the press. I say hot off the press, even journalists now in Gaza are being targeted. They are being killed one by one. So we have images coming from Gaza, from cell phones, and which other media tools that people can use to send us information. And like I said, I'd like to thank the brothers and sisters for their support for these streams regarding the topic of Palestine. Myself and Brother Yusuf have received numerous strikes, numerous warnings regarding highlighting the issue of the Palestinian people. And we are the only two channels, Dawah channels, that do this show on a regular basis without fail. So I like to commend our brother Yusuf Ismail for being part of this partnership because the work that brother Yusuf Ismail and this research that he brings is to me second to none, and we need to benefit from this. And with that, I'd like to welcome our brother Yusuf Ismail all the way from South Africa. Brother Yusuf Ismail, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for those kind words. We are in the last days of Ramadan. And so, we ask the Almighty to shower His blessings and mercy on all of us, more particularly, increase the resilience of the Palestinians. As you quite correctly pointed out, we've been relentless and we will continue being relentless despite us doing other work over the past couple of months or the forthcoming months. We will be relentless in speaking out against this undeniable Israeli genocide, undeniable fact that Israeli forces and the IDF, in fact, the entire imperial power and the imperial might of the United States have essentially signed a death warrant for Palestinian children in Gaza. This has been confirmed by even many human rights groups. And I therefore take off my hat, not just to those out there like your channel, Brother Muhammad, but, there are within your country commendable individuals. And I take off my hat to people like, Galloway, someone like Owen Jones, who's got no political credentials or political pretensions, but he has been a tour de force. Go to Owen Jones' channel, a tour de force in exposing the Israeli genocide. Novara Media, another fantastic site. Max Blumenthal, another phenomenal individual speaking out against what is happening. I mean, and even some of the more populists, like who are not traditionally activists, but people like Candace Owens, and of course not failing to mention, other regular sites like the Electronic Intifada and other individuals. These are the kind of, shapers of the content and, influencers in terms of providing some particular form of context, or proper context in terms of what's really happening down on the grassroots, and of course exposing the topic that we are going to be discussing this evening.
Yeah, I wish I could greet you with good news. And the figures that have recently come out, like 50,000 now, it's going to be much more than 50,000, have been reported killed from the Israeli bombardment over the last 2 or so years now. And even just today, we're having figures of like over 40 people just on one day being murdered by the Israeli army. And where, brother, I know, Yusuf, I know you are a lawyer by profession. Where is international law? What's happened to the aspects of international law? Does it hold water anymore? Is it gone out the window? Or international law is only applicable to one group of people, but not applicable to another group of people. What is going on, Yusuf? Why hasn't nobody said enough? Enough. What is the motive? I know I threw a lot at you there, brother Yusuf, but international law,
No,
does
indeed.
it
I think
does it have a value of international law?
this question that you asked, it's a very it's an extremely powerful question, an extremely sober question. I recall a similar question, just to the one that you asking, was asked to the American lawyer and Palestinian activist Noura Arakat. I think it may have been on Democracy Now! Or one of the other media outlets that raised the question: what's the impact of international, and same thing to someone that's posed regularly, Francesca Albanese, and they recognize the fact that you've got these international customary law and these international legal instruments that are out there that in principle recognize things such as war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, ethnic cleansing. And at the end of the day, even if you have a judicial authority or a court such as the International Court of Justice that makes an order or makes a particular ruling in relation to the fact that Israel, for example, is now guilty of genocide. The issue at the end of the day is, what goes from there, what flows from there. At a local level, we, for example, have a situation where, my field is criminal law in the national context of South Africa. I'm what they call in the United Kingdom, I don't know if you have them, we are called public defenders. We're employed by the state, but purely to defend those who are indigent, those who are poor, those who cannot afford legal representation. So I'm not a private lawyer. I'm a public defender, and I deal with criminal law. And at criminal law level, what I can say is that there are rules and regulations, there's statutes, there's precedent, there's common law, there's the Criminal Procedure Act, there is the law of evidence, there's substantive law. And then, of course, you've got what backs it up is law enforcement. Law enforcement, which would mean police officials. So if you are breaking a law or you commit a criminal offense, that is recognized as a criminal offense in terms of South African law. What then happens is that you've got a situation where a law enforcement official, like a police officer, or if you're breaking a traffic regulation, a traffic officer, just like in your country, ensures or effects an arrest, arraigns you to court, and effectively you are then given the full right of a fair trial. And then you are either a determination is made, an adjudication is done, you're found guilty, or you are acquitted based, of course, on the evidence presented. The problem that we've got at the international level is that you've got these laws that are enshrined, and on one level, we can even criticize the context and the formation in terms of how these particular laws developed, because essentially it was, after the Second World War, and very much developed by the Allies and the resistance to Nazi Germany. So it was one particular camp. And the unfortunate situation now is that camp, which is your country, the United Kingdom, the United States, France, much of Europe, when that law is applied to, for example, people in third world countries or parts of Eastern Europe, it's all well and good. When it comes to, for example, applying that law to, hypothetically speaking, the United States, the United Kingdom, Prime Minister, or its allies like the State of Israel, we do not have a policeman, a global policeman, to say, look, we are now arresting Benjamin Netanyahu. We are bringing you to the International Criminal Court to be tried for war crimes, or the same applicability to Yoav Gallant. So the result is that if you are in a country like the United States, and Netanyahu has been going up and down regularly there, they're not going to effect an arrest warrant against you because, number one, they do not recognize the Rome Statute, and number two, they are essentially a law unto themselves. And I mean, particularly with Trump in recent days, what you see is that he channels and charts and presents a trajectory of just what is clearly fascism. I mean, it's lunacy. Just 2 days ago, I was hearing his new blonde press secretary that he chose, speaking about Canada being the 51st state. They want to take over Canada. I mean, this is an insane country and insane leadership. They want to take over Greenland as a 52nd state. So essentially, you are having empire, which is a law unto its own, and Israel, which has complete impunity, and nobody can say anything to it. So essentially, if you have, for example, a ruling by the International Court of Justice, that ruling then has to come to be implemented to the Security Council, or what happens at the United Nations. The United Nations, you've got two of the major powers, your country, the United States, they all exercise veto powers, and so nothing will be passed as a resolution. So, for example, if you want UN law enforcement officials entering Gaza and securing the area, that could never happen because it will be vetoed. If you want some sort of situation whereby international law enforcement officials enter Israel and effect an arrest in Netanyahu, that will never happen. You've got the special rapporteur on occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese, this phenomenal Boadicea of a woman who's been relentless also in her condemnation, critique, and devastating analysis of the Israeli genocide. She's not even allowed to enter Israel, and she's a special rapporteur for the occupied territory. She's not even allowed to enter the country. I mean, they'll arrest her. So when you ask the question about the law, you've got the law out there. But unfortunately, when it is a tool in the hands of a select few, what then happens is that it becomes an instrument of oppression, which can be then utilized against those who are marginalized and at the lower echelons of society, and indeed in the lower economic stratum of global power. So you could very well easily impose it on a third world country, and it's highly possible that you can have UN forces entering the country, as they've had, over the past 3 or 4 decades. When it comes to the West, America, or the United Kingdom, or its strongest ally, which is Israel, which is also the West, which is part of the West. It's not Middle Eastern, it's part of the West. Then, unfortunately, Israel has run amok. It operates with a kind of a level of total impunity, total lack of concern for international law. And effectively, it has over the past several months, and there was a trajectory of buildup, but over the past several months has been emboldened to such an extent that it can do what it can do. For example, I'll give you one example. You remember when this conflict started, there was that strike by the missile on the Al-Shifa hospital. You remember in 2023, around about October 2023, and there was a global outrage. And then people were saying, and the Israeli apologists were saying, oh, Israel will never bomb a hospital. I mean, this is now Hezbollah, which was a lie, because it was blown out by a lot of these alternative medias that the missile came directly from Israel, not the other way around. They were trying to present the idea that the missile came from Gaza, and it kind of backfired and it knocked the hospital out. And all the Israeli apologists were trying to make this point, that Israel would never dare target a hospital. They would never do that. And they were justifying this, and global news outlets were doing that. Well, you know what? Guess what? Guess what, Brother Mohammed? Every single hospital now in Gaza has been bombed. Do you hear the outrage about it? Is there any outrage by any hypocrite out there? Anything whatsoever? I mean, just when was it? 2 days ago. I may just share this before we go. This was about 2 days ago. They bombed a cancer hospital. They bombed a cancer hospital. Israel bombed a cancer hospital. And where is the outrage? Where, in fact, is the outrage in relation that Israel bombed Gaza's only cancer hospital? It was, today's the 26th of March. On the 22nd of March, they bombed it. They bombed that hospital. Did any major news outlet even raise an eyebrow? An eyebrow. And there's an organization called Code Pink. I'm going to share this with you. I'm just opening the page of Code Pink. But this is, they document, they've been phenomenal. This elderly woman, a tiny lady that basically is going out and confronting these congressmen in the United States. I'm going to share a clip of this hospital. It's not graphic in terms of showing the children that were torn and ripped apart and murdered and so on. But here we are. I'm gonna try and share this page. This is it, Chick. Can you see this, Brother Mohammed? Is that on our screen? If you can just share this on the screen, and I'm gonna expand this. I'm gonna expand this to see what we are basically. Yeah, let's go. This is a hospital. This is now this is basically so that people know the context of what I'm talking about. There's not a lot of hospitals anymore left because all of them have been bombed. But what you have, for example, in Israel, there are some hospitals that, for example, deal with cancer patients. One of them is known as the Turkish Friendship Hospital. The Turkish Friendship Hospital was blown up on the 21st of March at 5:01. Have a look at this image. Just have a look at this and let me know what you think.
Bam! That's it.
You see that? So what are we talking about here? I mean, this is we've reached a new level of insanity where about just not even a year ago, people were saying that, look, no, the attacks on the hospitals could never be done by Israel because Israel would never do such a thing. And therefore they blamed it. They lied. These scum lied and blamed it on Islamic Jihad, not Hezbollah, sorry, on Islamic Jihad, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. They blamed it on them. They lied because they are saying that no, Israel would never do that. Now they're not even ashamed of it. They've reached such a level of total lack of any form of moral proclivity. They're not even ashamed of destroying this particular hospital. And I might just add this particular point that, you gave the figures, and we are talking about the killing of children. And there's an interesting article by both Mohammed Haddad and Mohammed Hussein called Gaza's Stolen Childhood. I'm not going to play the documentary because it's from Al Jazeera and we received strikes. But the question is, who are the thousands of Israel's children killed? And the information that goes something along the line that from a statistical point of view, Israel kills a child in Gaza every 45 minutes. That's basically an average, if you look at it, an average of about 30 children killed every day for the past 535 days. And that's an underestimate because now the figures are standing at something like 19,000 children since the 7th of October, including 15,600 who have been identified. 15,000, they've been blown up. They've been beheaded through the bombs. We can't show those pictures. They have had their torsos torn apart. Families have been destroyed. You see one sibling watching and injured and seeing his other sibling beheaded, totally beheaded. His head is not there. His body or torso is not there. And then now the problem is that those children who survive and have witnessed what they've witnessed basically endure the trauma, not just of this genocide, but also of the kind of the multiple wars and the effect that this kind of oppressive shadow of an Israeli blockade affecting every aspect of their very existence, basically from birth. So if you take into account the fact that Gaza's children comprise about 2.3 million, approximately 2.3 million. Over the past 17 months, Israel and the Israeli killing machine have destroyed their homes, these children. They've destroyed their schools. I mean, when last did a child in Gaza go to school? How are they studying? And this was a highly educated, this was a nation and a community and a group, an ethnic group that highly valued education. I saw a couple of years ago the value they placed to education, and all of that is gone. All the material, the literature, all is gone. So it's destroyed their homes. It's destroyed their schools. It's destroyed their hospitals. It's destroyed whatever little healthcare facilities that they have. So to put that in perspective, if you have a room of, say, 100 children, 2 have been killed, 2 missing, presumed dead, 3 wounded, many critically, 5 have been orphaned, separated from their parents, and 5 require treatment for acute malnutrition. And besides that, you've got children that are having their limbs amputated in real time without anesthetic. You could die in such pain if you basically cut yourself just with a little knife. You have a cut. Imagine the sting that you go through with that, and imagine the pain. If you put your hand on a stove, even a moderately hot stove plate, for about 5 seconds, imagine the burn that you are feeling. Can you imagine? Just 5 seconds. Now, amplify that and compare that with a child who is 6 years old, who is having his entire leg amputated without anesthetic. Can you picture that? Can you picture a woman who undergoes cesarean section without anesthetic? They pass out. The doctors have stated that the pain is so unbearable that they pass out in pain. And sometimes, due to the pain being so unbearable, they can only get the babies from the mother's womb, and the mother dies. Because, imagine you're cutting open a woman's stomach. Just imagine we were to cut our hand off now at this stage. What will happen? You bleed to death. Now, these are the conditions that these particular people are under. Apply that to a child of 6, 7 years old who has to have his arm cut off or has to have a leg. Now, he's already injured. He's not us, like us. We've got our limbs with us. And if you were to cut it in a normal, ordinary circumstance, it'll be extremely painful. You'll probably die. You'll probably either die out of shock because of the intensity of the pain, or you'll pass out. These children here are undergoing amputation of their limbs without anesthesia. You must be a sick, psychotic, sadistic, bastard individual if you can justify this as self-defense on the basis of this kind of charade that is basically being presented about self-defense. And that's why sometimes I feel that, when I see a lot of content and I see a lot of debate happening in the global media space. And unfortunately, sometimes you don't even have the right people that can spell it out the way it is, with no apology, no qualms of attempting to justify or condemn Hamas, saying it as it is without any shame and without any kind of compunction in terms of what we are dealing with: a satanic state, an evil state, a killing machine state, a state that does not need to exist. Does Israel have the right to exist? No, it does not have the right to exist. It cannot have the right to exist. And I'm not taking it from the perspective of wanting to recognize it. We do not recognize Israel. The settlers are not just in the West Bank. The settlers are in the entire region of what is called Israel. For there to be true justice, you can't have a two-state solution. You can't have a situation where Palestinians have their own particular government, where you've got Gaza and the West Bank as a state and Israel as a state. None. You cannot have that. We cannot have that. We have to speak out against that. We cannot have a two-state solution. The only solution you have to have is a total and utter disbandment, a complete and utter disbandment of the state of Israel, and unashamedly so. The entire administrative Knesset has to be totally set aside. It has to be dissolved. The Knesset has to be dissolved. And all those politicians have to be lined up before the Hague for facing war crimes, or alternatively face the guillotine for execution. That's the only solution to this. It's a bold step. It's a bold move. But if you want a true solution, that would be the only solution. There's no compromise. There's no middle ground. There's no anything in relation to that. If there is a mass invasion, in inverted commas, of Palestinians entering Israel, then so be it. If there's a coup that happens, so be it. If there's a revolution that happens, so be it. If there's an assassination of Netanyahu and members of his administration like Smotrich and Ben Gavir and Katz, so be it. I would support such an initiative. Why I would support such an initiative? Because it basically it reaches a greater goal. And yes, the Palestinians should be given their land back, not some of the land, all of the land, all of the land. Tel Aviv included, all of the land. We're not asking for the West Bank or Gaza Strip. We're asking for all of the land. All those Israeli officials that were talking about Egypt and Jordan and Saudi Arabia absorbing them, it's not their responsibility. They don't come from Egypt or Jordan or Qatar and Saudi Arabia and some of these rich petrodollar Arab states. They come from Israel proper. And to the extent that they come from Israel proper, they need to be absorbed there. So by all means, Israelis can live. Israelis can live, those who are there. We're not saying move out. What you now need to do is have a situation where you accept the Palestinians in their midst. You won't accept them because once you accept the Palestinians, that would mean the end of Jewish majority rule. When Jewish majority rule comes to an end, basically that you could have a joint unity government. I would support a joint unity government or a Palestinian government that is democratic, or depending on whether it wants to operate under Islamic principles, which would be good, but provided that they are genuine Islamic principles, because who defines what Islamic is now is highly, highly problematic. Is it the Islam of the Taliban? Is it the Islam of Malaysia? Is it the Islam of Indonesia? Is it the Islam of Egypt? Is it the Islam of the Arab Gulf states? Is it the Islam of Saudi Arabia? Is it the Islam of the Ikhwan al-Muslimin? So I don't like using the term Islamic State. It's more loaded than anything else. Everybody has their own ideas of what is Islamic, unfortunately. Although we shouldn't have, because you've got the Quran and the prophetic paradigm. But my point is that would be the only solution. A single state, dissolving of the Knesset, no more Israel. You can call it Holy Land or you can call it Palestine, but a state where everyone has the right to vote. Then, in such a situation, if the settlers want to go to Judea and Samaria, then by all means they can go to Judea and Samaria and settle there. But then if the Palestinians want to go and set up shop in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem proper or East Jerusalem, or have complete autonomy over, for example, Al-Aqsa, then nobody can stop that. And so this is the end game, what I would say, the goal and the trajectory in terms of where we should be heading and what we should be calling about. So I make no qualms in relation to that. And, coming back to this particular point that you're raising is that if nothing is done, the rest of the children bear the kind of invisible scars of war, of trauma, that not just affects their physical well-being, but their mental health, their mental wealth and well-being. I want to just share this document. Whilst Brother Muhammad, I see you've in the backstage. I want to share this here. Here's a document. I hope they haven't come and arrested you, Brother Muhammad, because we've mentioned some things which is totally acceptable in my country, but may not be acceptable in your country. But I'm not holding, whatever I've said is what I've said. Don't hold Brother Muhammad accountable to what I've said. If I call for the execution of Netanyahu or the assassination of Netanyahu, that's on me. That's not on Brother Muhammad. That's on me. If I call for the total and utter disbandment of the state of Israel, that's on me. I'm making the point. Brother Muhammad may have a different position. I don't know. So I don't want to say anything which would compromise him in the United Kingdom, and nothing that I communicate is necessarily his views. We've got different views and different opinions. But if I were to come to the United Kingdom, I would say the very same thing which I'm saying now. If I were to go to the United Kingdom, if you were to ask me, would I support Hamas? Well, I don't necessarily support everything, but insofar as engaging in the resistance and armed resistance against Israel, my answer is yes, I support them. Would I support Hezbollah? Well, I don't support them in everything, but insofar as they're engaging in the armed resistance against Israel, using force and using weaponry, I support that. Would I support the Houthis? Again, I don't necessarily ideologically align myself with the Houthis, but the Houthis have been the heroes of the conflict. They've been the avengers of the conflict. Their principal stance and their symbolic acts have been forms and tokens of resistance against the Israeli state. So this is our position, and so I'm making this without any fear, without any favor. So coming to this point, which I want to share. Brother Mohammed, you can just share the screen because it takes us back to the topic, to what I have. Brother Mohammed, are you there? I just want to share the screen. I've got a screen here that I would like to share. I think apologies. I think Mohammed has gone to break his fast. So we'll give him a few minutes. But in the meantime, we in South Africa have broken our fast about more than 2 hours ago. So I think the United Kingdom, we wish our brothers well that they are just making their iftar now. They're breaking their fast. And so we ask them to be blessed. And Allah shower his mercy and blessings on the brothers there and the other individuals, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim. We ask the Almighty to shower his mercy and blessings on you and give you guidance and open up your pathway. That's all we are. So coming back to the point, I can't seem to share the screen because Muhammad is not there. So I'm basically going to go. This is a document that I have before me in terms of identifying which children in Israel were killed. Among the documented children, now I want people to make a note of this, among the documented children, at least 825 were babies. Close to 1,000 were babies. They were not yet old enough to celebrate their first birthday. Another 1,000 were 1-year-olds. They were murdered before they could take their first step. Then you had a situation about 3,266. They were in preschool. They were between ages of 2 to 5, and they were deprived of play, discovery as you're growing up, and simply the joys of being a child. 4,032 who died, aged 6 to 10. They left behind classrooms, school uniforms that were hardly worn. How could they go to school when every single aspect of their society is totally destroyed? How? Then you have another 3,646 between the 11 and 14 middle schoolers. They lived through the first 3 wars. So they lived through 2012. They lived through 2014. They live now through 2021. They were killed. And then you have 949 between the ages of 15 and 17. They were murdered. And they were killed. And they witnessed what happened between the wars of 2008 and 2012. So between 2008 and 2012, these individuals saw that war. They lived through what happened in 2014 and, of course, now in 2021. And then, of course, you have a situation where another 8,000 or 9,000 were sons and another 6,000 were daughters. And as at the beginning of this year, Israel murdered 17,400 children. So that's from the time I took over. So that means, and the estimates are that approximately 15,600, their names are known. Many of them remain buried under the rubble. Most of them are essentially effectively dead. They're presumed dead. They're not around. So this is the situation that you've basically got. It's a telling problem, and unfortunately, what you have is that mainstream Western media, mainstream journalists, even your channels like BBC and ITV, and ITN for that matter, what happens? What do they do? Do they give you this information? They give you, if they were to, for example, state that Israel is committing war crimes, they will present it in the form of a quote, not a direct, objective, journalistic analysis that a genocide is taking place. None of that. None of that will basically be there. So we now need to ask the question, what do we do? I mean, we are sitting back because Palestine is surrounded by Muslim countries, rich Muslim countries. You've got Saudi Arabia to the south, you've got Qatar, you've got the UAE, you've got Jordan, which is a monarchy. What are the Muslims doing? What are they doing? What are the Muslim leaders doing? What are the Muslim nations doing? What would the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would have done had he been here in the 21st century? How would he have related to the situation? How would what would the four caliphs, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, let's stick to them, the righteous guided caliphs, the Khulafa Rashideen. What happened after that was obviously corruption entering, and you've got the dynasties, the Umayyad dynasty, the dynasty of the Abbasids, and the corruption amongst the later caliphs. But the four, I'm talking about the preeminent leadership within the time of the Prophet, contemporaneous to the Prophet, because all these four caliphs were contemporaneous to the Prophet. How would they have dealt with what is happening in Gaza? Tell me, what would they have done? Would they have sat back? Or would they be having a podcast or talk shows? Would they just be basically going to the masajid and saying, look, we need to make more dua. We need to tasbih more. Tonight is Laylatul Qadr. We need to basically ask Allah. We need to search. Even though the meaning of Laylatul Qadr is not just like a single light, it's far more nuanced than the understanding is generally given by some of our literalists. But would they do that? Would they engage and just simply show the outer realms of piety, as can be seen in the masajids that we have, many masajids being unnecessarily built and developed, many funds being allocated to useless projects? Or would they have done something for the Palestinians? Because the Palestinians had become forgotten. Norman Finkelstein, we had him on this platform last year. He made the point that after 2020, and certainly when COVID hit, he stopped discussing Gaza. He felt it was depressing if it was over. His stint on discussing what is going on in Gaza, he felt that he couldn't do anything. He didn't want to discuss it. It was nothing. He had given up on Gaza. And suddenly, out of nowhere, October 7th brought it back into the global agenda. To such an extent that Israel is now a total pariah state, a state that has got no morals, no scruples, no compunction, no sense of balance, no Islamicity. Well, of course, they're not Islamic. They don't even uphold to the ethos of Judaism. The largest gay pride parade festival in the world is where? It's in Tel Aviv. That's the largest gay pride parade festival. What are you doing talking about the rights of homosexuals? Of course, we're not saying that they should be denied rights, but what are you doing with promoting this kind of LGBTQ lifestyle, yet you still claim to be a Jewish state? Are you a Jewish state or you're a foolish state? Make up your mind in terms of what is going on and what you really mean. So coming back to what I stated, I see Brother Muhammad is still not with us. I believe he is breaking his fast. But The situation is dire. Babies from 0 to 1 years old, they document that approximately 1,720 babies from 0 to 1 year old was killed. Out of the boys from 0 to 1 years old, 880. Out of the girls from 0 to 1 years old, 840. So out of the boys, 51% of all children, babies from 0 to 1 years old have been killed, murdered amongst the boys. And 49% of, that is approximately 840, of all girls in Gaza that have been killed, 49% are girls. So what are we discussing here? What on earth are we talking? Unfortunately, I can't just show you the slide because Muhammad is in the background, and unfortunately, I think he's breaking his fast. We're going to call this to a close shortly, but I want people to basically look at this. This is one example that I want people to maybe share and inform others and probably do some research on it as well. On March 18th, that was last week, Israeli forces launched about 100 simultaneous strikes. And we discussed this on Sunday, I think, or Saturday. I can't recall when our last stream was. So they launched about 100 simultaneous strikes. And that strike shattered the 2-month-old ceasefire with Hamas. Over the next 36 hours, there were approximately 436 people were killed, including at least 183 children, 94 women, 34 elderly people, and 125 men. Let the figures sink in. Think about that. And amongst the children that were killed was 1-year-old Muhammad Abu Hilal, who died, along with his 7-month pregnant mother. He was killed with his 7-month pregnant mother, Afnan, in another Israeli air attack on the Al-Mawasi camp. This famous Al-Mawasi camp has been has been having attack after attack after attack. And this is a location that Israel had claimed was basically a safe zone. This is the location that Israel claimed was a safe zone. So this is the reality of the situation. So, Mohammed, I think you've got that there. The slide is back, and I see that you are back. I was just exhausted going on, but I just want to share, expand this screen on my side so it can give you, so that people can see some perspective. Remember, if I go up to this particular table, if you see this table here, this is one table. It basically, one diagrammatic illustration. Babies from 0 to 1 year old killed. Got another table that's going out. Who are the children killed in Gaza? 0 to 1 years, 1,720 killed, 11%. 2 to 5 years, 3,266 murdered, 21%. 6 to 10-year-olds, primary schoolers, 4,032 killed, 26%. 11 to 14 years old, lived through 3 wars, 3,646 killed, 23%. Killed before they could grow up into adulthood. And 15 to 17 years, lived through 4 wars, 2,949 killed. That's approximately 19%. So, I don't know what to say. I mean, this is one instance where Muhammad Abu Hilal, a 1-year-old, he was with his 7-month pregnant mother. Both were killed. His father was crying. He held his body. I would like to have shown the video. I can't. He said, "Go to heaven. You're going to find all your toys up there." Father was destroyed. Imagine if your child dies through natural means. How would you feel? Natural. What happens now if they die through unnatural means? What would you do? So this is the reality of the situation, Mohammed. I mean, this is, what can I say?
It's devastating, it really is. And there's still people out there justifying this genocide, still willing to back it with finances and military aid. And the worst ones are, for me, are the ones who remain silent, who
Yeah.
claim they are Muslims, we support the Arabs, or we support the Ummah, but they remain silent and show feathers, basically. They make a statement on X or social media, such a prime minister, such a Muslim leader has stated that we will cut ties with Israel. It's all, well, a load of baloney. They still have connections with Israel. They still give oil and petrol and military means to Israel. This is the worst part for me, Brother Yusuf, is the fact that the Muslim countries have remained silent in this genocide, and their turn will come. No doubt about it. Their turn will come, and we'll see in the future how they will deal with the situation compared to the people of Palestine. Brother Yusuf, I know you're tired. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been a very educational show, and I'm really requesting for the brothers and sisters to take snippets from these shows and put them on your social media. There won't be no copy strike from my behalf or Brother Yusuf's behalf. Please take small clips and share it on your social media. Even just today, over 50 people, Palestinians, have been killed. Over 50, including women and children. It's devastating. It really is.
This is Hind Rajab. You remember Hind Rajab? This is a
Of course.
classroom, 4,032 empty classrooms, 26%. I mean, there's no more schools. 3,046 before they could grow up. These pictures are something else. Is imagery, and these bright young kids, the bright kids basically that are just being destroyed, their lives, and more are being killed. So this, as we are talking now, I mean,
Yeah.
tonight you're going to have children being killed, people being killed, and
You,
this is
you,
just Gaza. We haven't even gone to the West Bank. I haven't even gone to the horrors of what's happening in the West Bank. That's another discussion on its own. Maybe we should discuss just a topic on the West Bank and what is basically happening in the various cases there. Spent a lot of time on Gaza. What's happening in the West Bank is atrocious, fascist, Orwellian, dictatorial, and absolutely insane. Nobody could live under these particular conditions of torture and suffering and suffocation. And I mean, let's assume even the killing is, let's assume the murder stops. Where do these people go back to? Where do these people go back to? If you see Coventry, you leave to Manchester, and then you realize Coventry has been bombed completely. I mean, those brothers out there who are living there, or those who stay in Manchester or London for that matter, and then you're told, well, you can go back. But when you go back, you realize that, look, everything is blown up. Everything is bombed. There's nothing for you to go to. Is that an environment that you want to go back to in any event? And this is the situation that we basically have. This is the problem that we've got. Look at this.
There is so much to talk about. Even the killing of the journalists, Al Jazeera journalists.
Yeah.
You brought a outstanding figure earlier. Like every 45 minutes, there are. Did you say 3 children? Sorry, a child is killed every 45 minutes.
Yeah, a child is killed every 45 minutes. It's an average of 30 children killed every day over the past 535 days.
Yes.
I mean, that is staggering for a small population of that. This is absolutely staggering because Gaza's population, the Palestinians they're not a large population, but this is staggering for that population. And the kill rate, in fact, at the beginning of the war, it was determined and established that the kill rate in Gaza was equivalent to what is happening in Rwanda, what happened in Rwanda, similar at the earlier stages. So this is what we are dealing with, you know.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. It really is. But like I said, once again, Brother Yusuf, thank you for sharing this information with us. And I really commend you for the work that you've been doing over the last year plus. So, uh, roughly probably 2 years now, you've been doing some outstanding
And for
research,
2 years.
outstanding work. And it's, oh, I just pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, this war comes to a swift end, and the people of Palestine will get their land back, every inch of it, and Gaza and Palestine is rebuilt with our money, with the Muslims' money, and not the plan that Trump had and his so-called puppets. None of that crap. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the victory to the people of Palestine. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we complete this month of Ramadan. And wherever you are, please reflect on these last couple of days of
Ameen. Ameen.
Laylatul Qadr. Laylatul Qadr is one of the most powerful nights. So please, your supplications on these nights will be immense. So once again, thank you for watching. I'd like to thank Brother Yusuf Ismail. And finally, I want to mention that I myself will start doing a dawah stall here in Coventry every Sunday on the Foleshill Road here in Coventry outside Edgewick Park. So after Ramadan, inshallah, myself and my two sons will be giving out free Qur'ans, free information about Islam, and hopefully answering questions. And God willing, I'll be able to stream some of them to you directly from my
Phenomenal.
location.
Phenomenal.
Thank you. I think that's the only way for us to fight back, Brother Yusuf, is by continuing propagating the Muslim belief. This is what really hurts the Zionists and the evil ones.
Indeed.
And
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. I think that's what we need to do. We are missionaries at the end of the day. We are propagators of the faith, propagators of truth. Because Islam is not a religion. It's not a religion like Christianity and Judaism. It's not a religion. Deen is loosely translated as a religion. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenukum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa radit lakum al-islam deena. That this day have I perfected your deen. It's not a religion. It's understood and conventionally translated as religion, but it's more than that. It's all encompassing. It's universal. It's a worldview that encompasses all, that is universal in scope, that has the truth, and that leads you to the ultimate truth, which is your creator. And that's what we call on everybody. We call on all the evil people in this world. We call on people like Netanyahu and Trump and J.D. Vance and Gallant and Itmar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich and Starmer, all of them to embrace the truth. And if they don't, at the end of the day, if they choose to remain on falsehood and on evil, then we tell them, ideologically at the very least, to you be your way and to me my way. That whatever you follow is yours, whatever I follow is mine ideologically. But if you are to engage in oppression and tyranny, then Islam basically asks us to stand up and resist. And whilst the global Muslim body politic is weak, it's feckless, like you said earlier, Brother Muhammad, our leaders, they're nowhere on the global scene, unfortunately. Let us continue supporting symbolically at the very least. We myself and Brother Muhammad, well, at least myself, I'm not an expert on the Palestinian struggle, on the Palestinians. And I'm not Palestinian, and neither is Muhammad. Neither of us are Palestinians. We're not even ethnically Middle Eastern. But we see it as our religious duty, Islamic duty, a duty for justice, and standing up for them and for and on behalf of oppressed people in every part of the world. We stand up for oppressed people under tyranny in every part of the world. Read up Surah 4, verse 75, where the people ask Allah to raise up for them someone who will basically lead them away from tyranny and oppression. So we make that same supplication to the Creator on these holy days, on these holy nights, on these spiritually what's supposed to be spiritually rejuvenating days. It can only be spiritually rejuvenating if you recognize it and engage in spiritual activity for yourself. Otherwise, it's meaningless for you. Allah does not need our prayers. Allah does not need our fasting. None of that. He needs nothing from us. We need it. When we make salah, it's for our own spiritual development. It's not for the appeasement of Allah. We don't get to appease him. He doesn't need any appeasement from us. He's independent of all of that. It's for our own spiritual development. And likely, when we see a part of the body politic that is in turmoil and oppression, if we can't fight the fight, if we can't stand up and be part of the Palestinian resistance at a physical level, then at least at a symbolic level and at an ideological level, to confront the propaganda and the hasbara and break down falsehood. So the Quran states, وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَاقَ الْبَاطِلِ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا, that when truth hurls itself against falsehood, falsehood perishes, or because falsehood is by its very nature bound to perish. And that's what we do with the falsehood of Zionism, with the falsehood of the Israeli hasbara, with the falsehood of global empire. We stand up to confront it, smash it, and bring it down to the low levels which it belongs to. And I leave it at that, brother.
No, it's perfect. It's a beautiful way to end the show. Once again, I'd like to thank the brothers and sisters for your constant support over the last 2 years with these streams. Like Brother Ridwan mentioned, our channels have been shadow banned without doubt. So please continue.
I just want to mention, I want to mention something. Yours has been shadow banned. I've also had limited views and being shadow banned. Besides that, I'm presently fighting a cost order against the channel because there was an interdict obtained against programming that was broadcast about 2 years ago. An interdict was obtained. We had some guests. It was related to the aspect of animal welfare. But what is quite interesting is that the organizations that came after us, a lot of them are Jewish, strangely enough, and they are in all probability Zionist. And so I'm not surprised that we are being attacked at so many levels. But we're going to keep up the fight. We're going to be resilient, and we're not going to back down. We will never back down. Myself, Brother Muhammad, and Brother Muhammad's the only Dawah channel in the United Kingdom. All those multi-million subscriber Dawah channels, take a leaf out of Brother Muhammad, and he's humble. He's an extremely humble man. Wallahi.
No, brother, subhanallah, don't actually. Barakallah. I learned from you, brother.
I see the arrogance of some of our Dawah workers out there. And Brother Muhammad is extremely humble, and he's filled with a level of humility that I don't see amongst many of our Dawah workers. And I want them to take a light and a lesson from Brother Muhammad and his channel and what he's doing for the struggle of people out there. See him, look at his akhlaq, look at his conduct. I see a man that is sincere in his approach, and Allah, protect him and protect all of us, and of course,
Ameen.
give us the best in this world and the hereafter.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Yusuf, for those words. I don't deserve them, to be honest. I learned everything from you, from watching you over the years, your debating, your interaction. And may Allah have mercy upon all of us. And one day, inshallah, we meet together on high thrones in paradise. And may Allah have mercy upon all of us. And our ill family members, may Allah recover them, give them aid. And our parents who have passed away, our grandparents who have passed away, may Allah have mercy upon them and free them from hell and into paradise, or open the gates of paradise for them so they can enter with ease. And may Allah have mercy upon us and be light on us on that day where we have to face him. Jazakumullah khair. Your brother Muhammad and Brother Yusuf, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أشهد أن لا